Within the space of about 24 hours, my whole perspective on scarcity and abundance was turned upside down. I gave away about 2 shopping carts full of supplies and food to a poor, supposedly pretty unsafe township about an hour outside of Cape Town. And then 24 hours later, I was flying halfway across the world on a flight worth $15,000. And that contrast totally opened up my eyes. One of those 2 experiences also made me feel seriously uncomfortable, and it's probably not the one that you're expecting. All that, and we launched in 8 new cities this week. So it's been a pretty crazy 7 days. If you're new here, my name's Evan, and it's now been about a year and 3 months of building 2 online businesses. Art of Mondays, which is a private community for lifestyle founders, and the Founder Sports Club, which mixes sports and networking. I've been doing that while traveling the world full time, hopping between Australia, Indonesia, Thailand, Japan, Canada, America, Australia again, Japan again, and Cape Town, and now I'm here in sunny Perth. And safe to say it's been a pretty wild experience so far, all the while trying to become a better version of myself and stay balanced. Anyway, as usual, I am going to share the raw, unfiltered updates, the behind the scenes insights, the highs, the lows, the learnings, the challenges, the limiting beliefs, and everything that comes with building businesses while moving around and traveling. So if this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, it's good to have you here. Appreciate you being here. I'd love for you to subscribe and leave a comment if you're new. Just say hello and we can get to know each other a bit better. But before we get into any of the Art of Mondays or the Founder Sports Club updates, here's a bit of a more personal update of what my life has looked like over the last 7 days. After nearly a month living in Cape Town, hiking mountains, running residencies, hanging out with Art of Mondays members in a share house, it became my time to leave. And it was a bittersweet goodbye, so I tried to make the most of my last few days, hopping between cafes and the share house for work sessions, went for a few morning swims, and popped into some local run clubs as well. This guy, Jack, and this guy, Ruben, they invited me out for ice cream, and safe to say I've never quite been to an ice cream parlor like the one that they invited me to, let alone a art gallery that they took me to afterwards. Turns out Cape Town do this thing called First Thursday, where all of the art galleries and local establishments turn into dance floors. Anyway, I just touched down here in sunny Perth after 24 hours in the air, and you may actually recognize some of these spaces and faces. This is the apartment complex where the crew lives. Joe, Flynn, Jen, Tess, Liam, Alina, probably forgotten the name. Oh, Jai, of course, although he's traveling full time as well, just like me now. I just love the energy here. We are doing morning ice baths, sunset ocean swims, sunrise ocean swims as well, and plenty of focused work with some games of paddle and some family style dinners in between. All the good stuff that makes me feel alive. And yeah, I guess that's been the bee's knees of the last week or so. So let's jump into my traffic lights now. And if you don't know what that means, every week I share a highlight, a learning, and a challenge or a low light of the week that's just gone by. My highlight for this week was actually my last day in Cape Town, and I alluded to this at the beginning of this video. I was going to do a safari or walk around the city with my camera and take some photos and be a bit of a tourist. But then another option came about, and I was talking to Jan, who I was staying with, who's also Art of Mondays member, and Jan said he was going to a township to give away some food with no expectation of getting anything in return. And firstly, I was so impressed by him, a young guy, only 22, and just wanting to give back to the world. So I was inspired by Jan, and I said, dude, like, don't go alone. From what we heard, we weren't sure if it was a safe area or not. So I went with him. And that meant that we could double the amount of food and the amount of money that we could give away to this community that was in need. The reality is that we live, compared to a lot of the population, a very comfortable life, a life where we can work and travel and we know that we're going to have food on the table. And for a lot of the people in this township that we were going to, they don't know if they're going to be able to eat. Sometimes they go to bed hungry And we heard this firsthand from the housekeeper at Jan's house, who was from there. And he told us these stories, and I think it really moved us, and we wanted to make a difference. So led by Jan, we went to the supermarket and got 2 whole shopping carts worth of food. Just the staples really, the pasta, the rice, the cooking oil, chicken, beans, tuna, things that to most people would be pretty basic, but to these people in need made the difference between whether they were going to eat or not that night. So we got in the Uber and we drove toward the township, which was called Delft. And on the way, as soon as we got out of Cape Town, it just became so eye-opening how big of a gap there is, especially considering where we were staying in Camps Bay, where there's villas looking over the ocean. And as we drove, I mean, I'll put some images over the top so you can get an idea, but it was just very obvious that a lot of people need help. And as we drove, I started to feel a little bit guilty, but also proud that we were actually doing this, when a few hours earlier I thought I was just going to go see some animals or go to the beach. So certainly some mixed emotions along the way as we were sitting in traffic eating our snacks. So eventually we arrived, and there were 7 elderly women waiting for us in this gated area. We were quickly rushed out of the car into the protected area by one of the locals who helped us arrange this. And then we were standing there with our 7 double-bagged plastic bags full of food and supplies, and we just gave them one by one to the locals. And honestly, it was kind of weird. I'm usually very easy to chat to, happy to say hello to anyone, but I just felt, I think the emotions kind of overcame me in that moment, and maybe I didn't realize it at the time, but I struggled to really say anything. I think because I saw these people there and they clearly didn't come from much. There's one image that stands out in my mind, and that's one of the elderly women who had no teeth. And for all of my life, when I've seen a grandmother or an elderly person, they have dentures because they can afford to have false teeth, but not here. So that is probably an image that I won't forget. But also what I won't forget is how grateful all of these people were, and all these women took the food back to their families, and who knows what happened after that, but it was a pretty special feeling to know that we were making a difference in that moment. So I think arguably I couldn't have spent my last day in Cape Town in a more meaningful way. That's something I'm going to remember forever. Well, it's hard to go on from that, but I'll change gears a little bit. My learning for the week is more on the business side of things, and it's the idea of how do we stand out when everyone looks 90% the same. And what I learned is that if you can create your own category, that's how you stand out, even if technically you're in a category that already exists. And let me give you an example. So Rashina, one of our Art of Mondays members, you could say that she does branding, right? But there are a million people out there who do branding. The way that she positions her service is Rashina helps founders design their identity from the inside out. But now, instead of competing in a crowded branding agency space, she's created her own lane, and clients come to her when they want their identity put into a design. If you've ever thought about this concept, let me know, share it in the comments. And even if you haven't, I'm curious, if you were to tell me what your industry is or what your service is, and it comes across as generic, if it feels generic to you, just experiment a little bit. What's the old version and what's the new version? I would love to hear it. And lastly, my challenge of the week. This is a really bizarre one because my challenge is also a big highlight, and arguably my highlight was also a big challenge. And this is that I mentioned my flight back to Perth. Well, I flew in business class, and the reason I did was to celebrate myself turning 30 as a present to myself, and acknowledging all the hard work that I'd put in for Art of Mondays and everything else that came before that over many, many years, and a tendency to never really do anything for myself. I never buy myself gifts. I never treat myself to nice clothes. Most of my clothes are from the op shops, and most of my shoes, for example, I don't buy new pairs until the old ones have holes in it. That's kind of how I've lived my life. So that's why the challenge for me was making the decision firstly, to buy this ticket. But secondly, when I actually took my seat, I was just overwhelmed with emotions. Things came through my head like, I don't deserve to be here. My money should have been spent on something else. You know, how could I justify this? Have I made a mistake? Yes, I can't deny, like, it was super luxurious, super comfortable experience I won't forget anytime soon. But I think the challenge for me was just trying to enjoy the moment and not overthink what I was doing there. So on the one hand, I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. Granted, I didn't pay anywhere near the full price because I was able to get it through some points and a bit of a back-end sneaky discount way. However, just being there, it was challenging because it meant that I was changing my identity. And ultimately, I think I may have spoken about this in last week's episode, but that's what I found really uncomfortable, and that's why I did it, because I knew that if I could do that, then I would be more open to spending on things in the future, things that, you know, maybe help me grow or help other people grow, or are just a nice little gift to myself. Because I definitely think that and I'm sure I'm not the only one, Jai does this too, and maybe you, if you're watching, struggle to celebrate the wins along the way. We often focus on what's the next thing, but yeah, it's important to just acknowledge the effort that you're putting in. So maybe that was just a message to myself, but maybe that message resonated with you, and if it did, go out and celebrate your win after watching this video. Okay, so there you go. Those are my highlights, challenges and learnings of the week. An absolute doozy if I say so myself, but now I would love to leave you with 2 questions to ponder, which I do every week. And the first is, 1, are you overdue for a dopamine detox? In other words, what does your system need for it to be able to reset? Is it not watching TV? Is it not checking your phone? Is it no social media? You know, what is the thing that helps you get back to your baseline nervous system? And then the second question to ponder is, if you had to build your business only through relationships and referrals, where would you start? Because when you acquire clients or customers through relationships, it's a lot easier because the trust is already there. Mull those over. If you want to share your reflections in the comments, go for it. And now I'll leave you with some quick Art of Mondays updates as usual. So for Art of Mondays, first of all, our private community, we have had 1,521 applications. That's up about 140 over the last week. We now have 117 active members. The average age is 27 still, and they're all lifestyle founders. So people who run online businesses, but also share the values of health, freedom, travel, flexibility, balance, selflessness, mindfulness, consciousness, all that good stuff. And in terms of what's actually happened in Art of Mondays behind the scenes this week, well, firstly, we are hiring some more people to join our alignment team. And the reason being is that we have way too much demand for people who are really interested in becoming a member, which is an amazing problem to have, of course, but we don't have enough hours in the day to jump on a call and get to know everyone and make sure that they're aligned. So we are bringing on some more people there. If that sounds interesting to you, then feel free to leave a comment and I'll tell you the next steps. We are also hiring some operator types. So the COO/integrator/executor kind of person who can turn ideas into reality. And the reason for that is because Jai and I are doing some partnership work with similar aligned businesses, people who have a similar business model, different niche, but are really aligned with our values. That's what's most important to us, which if you've been here for a while, is probably no surprise. Shoot, looks like it's getting pretty dark. One sec. I have also spent a bunch of time in person this week with Jai and Rachel cooking up our new Art of Mondays co-living experience. So this will be another benefit for our community, which is kind of like our residencies, which you would have seen plenty of before, but the co-living will be a lot more casual, usually longer period of time, and hosted by our members as well. And the last update is that our Alaska house in June sold out very quickly. So I've actually just spoken to the owner and booked the extension house right next to it so that we can have a few more people join us. I'm definitely looking forward to that one, especially because there will be 22 hours of sunlight. And that's Art of Mondays. As for the Founder Sports Club update, so we now have 3,661 members. That's up about 133 from last week. We are now live in 62 cities with 8 new cities launched this week: Antwerp, Calgary, Ottawa, Bogota, Helsinki, Zurich, Jakarta, and Abu Dhabi. And we also doubled our prices. And the reason we did this is because the most important thing for us in facilitating the Founder Sports Club meetups is that people are actually invested and want to go and they show up. And if we're charging, say, $3 a month, people don't really care if they don't go because they have nothing to lose. So the reason we doubled our prices is because this way people have made an investment and therefore a commitment to the other members that they're going to show up, that they're going to be part of the community. And if that means that the wishy-washy members cancel or the wishy-washy members don't sign up at all, that's actually what we want, because we want everyone who's in there to be committed to everyone else. And that's it. So it's been a big update today, but appreciate you sticking around to the end. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching my Monday Journal episode 10. I think so. And I will see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And I appreciate you being here. Thanks, fam. Much love. Peace. I'm going to go eat some dinner, actually. Jai, who's been very nice to me lately, he's always nice to me, actually. He's cooking me up some pasta. Thank you, Jai, if you're watching this.